Awesome. All right. So, salam alaikum, everyone. No. What I'm trying to do is from me, not Salman, to everyone. I just click on the thing that I sent you. I'm really sorry. I'm having some tech issues because I'm not able to, I've had an issue with the student portal, and I'm having an issue with the emails. So some of you got it and you were able to come in. Some of you were just messaging me, and I guess you had an issue with getting. And it seems like it's only 2 people, so I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why you didn't get it. So I'll have to figure that out, inshallah. But if you click on what I had just sent you right now, that's the notes that I'll be following today for our class. And I'm gonna also, I think I sent it in the email, but I'll send it again here so that we could just go over it together. And this is the syllabus. So there, I sent 2 documents. The second one is the syllabus, and I'll open it here. But before I start, I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Am I correct? You could just type it in here, like, yes, you can hear me. Yes, perfect. All right. And you can see me just fine, right? Alhamdulillah. Let me just make sure I pick this up. Okay. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Perfect. All right. So what I'm going to do, Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri, wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. I'm going to open the second document. And what I will do is I will share my screen and I will go over it together just so that we can be on the same page about what the class is going to be like. I know I sent it to you guys through email. Once, inshallah, this week, by the end of the week, I'll have the student portal set up. I'm going to have to get a tech to help me with it. And everything will be on there instead of like me sending you emails, right? And inshallah, you'll be able to catch up that way. So what I'll do right now is I'll go over it, just, you know how that's usually like the most boring part of the class, but just so that we could be on the same page and we are, we got clarity on how things are gonna go. And inshallah, everybody could just go back to this window to this video when they have more information about the course. All right, so Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put barakah in what we're doing. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to teach us that which will benefit us. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to benefit us with what He is teaching us, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to follow the best of what we are learning. So this course, inshallah, Tafseer Juz' Amma, hopefully will nourish and transform our hearts. Even though like I've done this before, I'm coming to this time with the intention and making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He bring me the change that I need through it, As someone who's teaching it, I'm also one of the, I benefit from it like there's no tomorrows, and alhamdulillah for that. And I'm hoping that everybody can make dua and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this is a journey that we're all taking with the book of Allah, that He open our hearts and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pour the Quran on our hearts and make our hearts soft so that we can comprehend it and follow the best of it. The course starting today, alhamdulillah, and the ending is January 20th. However, I put next to it to be determined, and when we go down, I'll explain more as to why that will happen. Our live sessions will happen every week at this time, every Sunday at this time, 9 a.m. I'm going to, inshallah, start right on time. I'll maybe give us 9:05, 9:10, just to, say salam, well, not 9:10. I'll just give us up until 9:05, just to say salam, see how everybody is doing. But as long as we have people logged in, we're gonna go ahead and start the class. I'm really hoping that we can be punctual with it, especially because I tend to go over time. I tend to always over prepare, but I want us to, inshallah, like benefit from the time and make sure that we don't go above an hour and a half, 2 hours maximum. The recording, if somebody is not able to make it at the live time, the recording will be available. It is now recording, alhamdulillah. Once it's done, I'm going to be able to upload it, inshallah, to the student portal. Until I do that, I'm going to make sure that I just send it to you guys so that you email it to you so that you could keep up with it, since it's not set up yet. There's like office hours. I guess I'm available through email, not any other means of communication because I don't always check them. So the best way, if it's something important, the best way to get through to me is through email. And I'm not talking about like this morning we had a little bit of tech issues and people were messaging me and that was fine. But what I'm talking about is like, if there's a question about what we're studying, or I'm going to also create a communication board for us, hopefully using the name of it, it's always escapes my mind. I don't want to use WhatsApp. There's another app that I want to use, and hopefully I'll share with everyone how to get on it and create an account, and it will make it easy for us to discuss what we are, to have discussions that are productive, that are connected to what we are studying. You have the course description on there, the course goals. I want to go over that. The course description is like, inshallah, it's what I've shared it enough that you've signed up for the course. Alhamdulillah, may Allah accept and put barakah in it. The course goals is that we're going to be explaining the verses of the Quran. I want to clear, I follow the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah methodology. I have been an Al-Maghrib student. If you're familiar with Al-Maghrib, almost everything I've learned it from Al-Maghrib, alhamdulillah. And the methodology that they use is the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. The books that I go back to study the Tafseer is definitely Tafseer Ibn Kathir, Qurtubi, Imam Sha'rawi. I did listen to Nu'man Ali Khan, Sheikh Tawfiq Chowdhury, anybody that I feel like I can benefit from. I also read a book called In the Shade of the Quran, and absolutely my favorite sheikh that I love to listen to about the Quran is Sheikh Maghamsi. And then a lot of times, like when it comes to explaining the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I listen to a sheikh called Ratib al-Nabusi, and I think that's the book that I forgot to share with everyone. I'm going to put it, inshallah, I'm going to include it. So there's a book about the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I want to include in our recommended readings. So whenever I share a hadith, I make sure that it is hasan, or an authentic hadith, like sahih or hasan, acceptable or authentic. If it's not, if it's a weak hadith, or if it's a fabricated hadith, if it's mentioned, I will always share that with you. I will not just share a hadith that is weak or fabricated and not tell you, okay? If I share it, there's usually a purpose and I will explain it. I usually go back to a lot of the Al-Maghrib courses that I took when I'm preparing this, but then I also do my other research and study, read other books to supplement the tafsir. So we will spend time to focus on lessons driven from the Islamic Aqidah. So when we're talking, I love Aqidah, obviously the Quran is building out the foundation of our belief system, and that's what Aqidah means. Tarbiyah means, what is it that you're doing? What actions are you living with? And then character development is your behavior, your mindsets, your emotions, all of the things that impact the way you interact with yourself, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and with others. So that's the biggest emphasis. And then through reflections, through prompts that I will give you, my intention is that we think about how is it related to me, think about how this information that I'm getting, what does it mean for me? And that's when I say, like, reflection time, it's really important. Some people feel like, this is, too fluff, but really, like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran is constantly asking us to ponder over what we are, like, أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ أَفَلَا يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. All of that is asking us to use our intellect to think over and to reflect and to ponder over what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. So how do we do that? Inshallah, I'm going to try my best to get us to do that. And that's why I will come to it, but I ask that you get a journal and a notebook that you keep track of what it is that your reflections, your thoughts, the lessons that you're learning, because we're human beings, we will forget. And having this, notebook where you take your notes and you keep track of your reflections helps you in retaining, right? I think I skipped over to, and then also, like, to create a supportive environment for students and teachers to connect, ask questions, and support one another. So the app that I want us to use, inshallah, and by the end of the week I'll also have this done, is called Slack. And the way it works is that it's like different channels, and I'm hoping that with each surah we will have a channel so that we can, share our lessons and reflections about that surah. And it's the goal and the intention is that we connect with one another, we support one another, we help one another, and that you, like, we'll go into how you do it, but basically that's the goal. And this is like creating a community around studying the Quran. This is really, really important for our personal development and our spiritual development. When, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like, revealed the Quran and the Prophet ﷺ was teaching us, the first thing he did when he came to Medina, actually even like when the da'wah started, when they would meet in Dar al-Arqam ibn al-Arqam, that was creating a community. That was creating a community that studied together. And so because we're doing this online, if you're only hearing from the teacher and there isn't that interaction between all of us and, like, what we're talking about, we kind of lose out on that benefit, right? So inshallah, it's to help us, not to overwhelm us. Obviously, engage in it as much as you are comfortable with. But I really urge everybody, inshallah, to get this app, and I will share more information about it as well. What are the required equipments and materials that you need? Some of you said you're connected right now through your phone, which is fine. But like, this isn't, if you think about it, this is an actual course. So you have access to notes. You are supposed to be taking notes. You're supposed to be, like, seeing the teacher. It kind of, like, if you're sitting on a computer, it makes it so much more effective. So what I'm going to ask is that you try your best to make that time to be on a computer, have a lovely cup of coffee, have a, like a snack or something to keep you, like, energized throughout the session. Have your notebook and make it your own, like, your me time, your study time, right? In your own home, or if you have to go somewhere to do that, then alhamdulillah. It will really impact what you get out of the course if you're completely connected and you're, like, cut off distractions. And I wanted to put my phone on airplane mode, but I guess it's ringing. So I forgot to do that. But just to cut off distractions and be completely there. You have access to the notes. Today I sent the notes quite late, but I'm going to strive to send the notes, inshallah, earlier on. If you want, what you can do is you can print them on a 3-ring binder, and then put it in, like, get a 3-ring binder and organize them that way. And then also get a notebook to take your notes, keep your journal, and I think I've already talked about that. Anas ibn Malik, there's, like, statements by the Sahaba, the scholars. Sometimes it's attributed to the Prophet ﷺ, but it's most likely a statement by the Salaf. They said that قَيِّدُ الْعِلْمَ بِالْكِتَابَةِ. If you want to retain knowledge, you need to write. You need to keep it by writing. So, like, do your best to take notes, not just to listen, because that's what you will go back to. That's inshallah what you're able to share with others as well, because one of the goals is that, as Muslims, whatever we learn, we pass it on. How are we going to do that? how are we going to retain the information is through writing. The requirement, I think I already went through that. If you want, some of my students did this and they found it very helpful, to get Tafseer Juza' Amma by Ibn Kathir. I cover it and I like pick and I guess I don't cover everything he says, but then what helps is that sometimes somebody would have read the tafsir as well and they can add their own thoughts about what the tafsir said. So if you want to get that book, you can find it on Amazon, at any bookstore, local bookstore, or I guess search for it online, inshallah. I have a list here of suggested readings and books. I forgot to add one, so I'm going to replace it actually. I'm going to replace one of them. But basically, these books really help in our spiritual development. The first one is Way to the Quran by Khurram Murad, and it talks about Way to the Quran is about how do we approach the Quran? What mindset do we come to before even like we understand it? What is the Quran? What is the value of the Quran? And how am I supposed to be when I'm coming to the Quran? The second book that I'm going to recommend is the Seerah book by Safiur Rahman Mubarak Furi. Now, the English translation isn't the best. I read it in Arabic. But if there's any other seerah book that you like, that I would highly recommend that you do seerah, because in understanding the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, we also better connect with the Quran, because the Quran is being revealed, with the Prophet ﷺ and everything that is happening. So having that understanding of the historical context helps you better understand why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying certain things. If you don't want to read a book and you have a favorite audio that you want to listen to, go ahead and do that. But just do something that helps you understand the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. The third book is called In the Early Hours, also by Khurram Murad. It's a tazkiyah book. It's a purification of the soul. A lot of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling us to do is fix our heart. Purify, nourish our heart. How do we do that? We do it through the Quran. What Khurram Murad does is that he compiles the most effective strategies. He helps you understand it, and then he gives you the strategies to do it. And obviously we will be doing that in the course as well, but this is extra supportive materials. And you don't have to get these books. These are just suggested. I will probably refer to them. Number 4, one of my favorite audios, and now it's available in the form of a book. It's called Children Around the Prophet. Now, this is not a course about parenting. But the reason why I love that book is that it shows us the character of the Prophet ﷺ. And our goal and our intention as Muslims is to emulate the Prophet ﷺ. And what I love, there's other series. There's another one called The Women Around the Prophet. That is also online that you can find. It shows the character of the Prophet. But this one resonated with me so much because it shows you the ultimate purpose of the deen as well, right? In the way he interacted with us. Assalamu alaikum. MashaAllah. What did we say? What was our agreement? Because I'm teaching. You can sit here and don't have them. All right. The Crowning Venture by Dr. Hafiza Saadia Mian. This is a book that I read recently, and it's about women who memorize the Quran and their relationship with the Quran. I love that book specifically because I know a lot of us have that ultimate goal of memorizing the Quran, and the book talks about how do we do it. How do we gain the confidence to do it, getting rid of some of the misconceptions that come with it, but also showing you when we dedicate ourselves to the Quran, what can happen. And if somebody's goal is not to memorize, but just to get to have the Quran in their lives, seeing how can you dedicate. That's the lessons that I'm hoping we can get out of it. The fourth one is Arba'in al-Nawawi by Mufti Hussein Kamani. It's an audio, it's not a book. I highly recommend it. This is obviously for a student of knowledge. The first thing that you learn is after in Aqidah, actually it's It's one of the first things you learn in the hadith, is like those 40 hadith of Nawawi, because they encompass everything in our lives, right? So you could do that. And then the book that I want to add is called With Allah, in the company of Allah, and it's all like about the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran is calling us to Allah. The Quran is always telling us about who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and this book is super amazing in explaining the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how that we can understand them and how we can apply them in our lives. There is going to be weekly assignments. I did not complete that. Inshallah, I will complete it by the end of the week, and that is, the weekly assignment is really your test. With every surah will come like questions that you can answer, and I will be giving you like, you will take the test. I'll also give you an answer key so that you can grade yourself, but I highly recommend taking the test so that you can know what is it that you're retaining, what is it that you're taking away from the course, and it gives you time to study. It's for you, it's not for me, it's not for anybody else. But I know, having graduated from Al-Maghrib Institute, the first class that I took, Sheikh Yasir Qadi, I remember him saying, take the exam, because you will not remember anything if you do not take the exam. And I've noticed the classes that I took the exam for, and alhamdulillah, I took a lot of the exams. That's how I was able to graduate. The classes that I took exams for, I was able to get a much better understanding, because like when you're in a class, things go really fast, and when you study, you take it bit by bit. You have the time to think about it. You have the time to ask questions. You have the time to just refresh everything. So I'm hoping you could do that. It is for you, and I'm going to post them every week, inshallah. I will give you more details about it. Course expectations, attendance is the first thing. To be honest, since this is an online course, the biggest thing will be your motivation to come online, to actually make the time. Like you have to be self-driven, right? And I also believe that we will do that with, like, if inshallah, like the way the teacher presents it and the way the teacher puts, like the value the teacher gives you will make a difference. I will strive for that. But at the same time, like, Shaitan does not want us to progress in this path. Shaitan does not want us to benefit. Life comes up with circumstances. If you are committed, I ask that you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He keeps you persistent. And if you're like feeling like you're falling behind, it's okay. You don't have to, like, don't worry about, I have to catch up before I can do this. You can always join back at any moment, right? Like if you, let's say you missed 2-3 classes, don't worry about having to catch up before you join the next class. Just go ahead and start from there. And then you can create like a gradual system to to catch up. If you're not able to make it for the live sessions, I highly recommend that you look at your calendar every week and decide when are you going to sit down and listen to the recording. I used to do an online course with Al-Huda before. I did it for like maybe a year, or a little bit less than a year. I didn't complete the whole course, but basically I remember it was every Wednesday and every Thursday, and it was live, but there was no recording, so if you missed the class, you really missed the class. But the class was like so amazing that I would leave and rush whatever I was doing and come home, and sit in my room and have like my place set up so that I could just listen and take notes. And it was like 4 hours every single night, those 2 nights. And subhanAllah, like eventually many people dropped out, but the one sister, like we were a group of sisters that started together. When the one that finished, wallahi, like it was, I can't describe to you how we were all so proud of her, because it meant that she was completely committed. She was a mother, she was a homeschooling mother, she had so many responsibilities, but she committed, and she got so much out of the Quran because of it. So what are we going to put into this course so that we can get something out of it? I'm going to really emphasize that, because I had to overcome my hesitation to do an online class, thinking like, oh, online, people usually lose motivation and things like that. It doesn't work for people, but it could also work, right? What if it does work? And I'm hoping that inshallah we can all make that priority. Where am I at? Make dua. I think I've already mentioned that. Student interaction. So this is something else. Like once I set up the slides, or we have a chat that we can all interact with, these are I'm hoping that we can keep in mind that our intention, our goal in this course with one another is to create an environment of kindness and to create an environment of compassionate support for one another. How do we do that? Being mindful of how we speak, being mindful not to harm others with our words, not to be judgmental towards others, not to be overly critical of others, not to give advice in a way where you are belittling somebody or discrediting their efforts, or you know what I mean? Like, be mindful not to hurt other people's feelings. That, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran is always telling us to be mindful, because shaitan wants to ruin the brotherhood and the sisterhood between us. So what are we doing to fix the way we come to our sisterhood, you know? So the goals that I have for us, always ask yourself, how can I best support my sisters with my words, presence, feedback, and resources? We're all wise. We all have like amazing backgrounds and different things, and we can offer one another value, and not just like students, but also myself, you know, like the teacher also benefits from all the discussions and the wisdom that people share. So always ask yourself, what is the next best thing that I could give everybody? Do no harm, respect one another's opinions and views. Even if you disagree, you can voice your opinion, but you can word it in a way where you're not discrediting somebody else, because share it in a way where you're saying, this is the way I've learned it, this is what I know, because we all have to be humble, right? None of us has like the ultimate truth, right? So if you do, alhamdulillah. And the way you present it makes it easier for people to take it. If it's like, you know, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants it for us. Know the art of giving advice and feedback in a positive way. Make dua for one another. Make dua for me, please. I need that. And then take the time to reflect on how are you interacting with everybody, and not just, you know, like here, but also everywhere else. How are you interacting with others? What do you bring to others? The schedule. I'm going fast, but this is the last thing, inshallah. I really want to finish Surat AlFatiha today. The schedule is tentative because some of you might know, some of you might not, because I feel like I know a lot of you guys. I am alhamdulillah pregnant, and I'm 7 months pregnant, and I'm due in 2 months. And so when I was thinking about how I'm going to do this course, if you look here, I created this schedule. The gray areas are the days that I feel like I might be giving birth. So I gave myself that flexibility. And then at the bottom here, if you, in January 27th, 17th, I gave myself the flexibility to catch up if we end up needing to do that. So I might do pre-recordings, I might not, depending on how I feel. I'm going to be in school at the same time. So I feel like, you know what, this is not going to be like, it's not going to bother me, inshallah, to come down here to my basement and be able to do the class. But only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows how things will go. This is why I say, please make dua for me. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it an easy delivery, and bless me with a healthy baby, an easy baby to take care of. But so this is why the schedule is a little bit tentative. Either way, if we go above, you will not be charged extra. You're only paying, like, this course is only 6 months, and your payments, if you already paid ahead, that was already set up like that. If you are doing monthly installments, then it's only going to go for 6 months, and then it's going to stop. Yeah, so I'm hoping the course is also going to end in 6 months, because I'm hoping that I don't need to cancel, inshallah, unless there is like, I'm really sick, and I hope that doesn't happen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep me healthy. With the live class, there's like weather cancellations, there's event cancellations, there's that and this that happens. But with an online course, inshallah, we will not need to do that. And sometimes if I do need to cancel on a Sunday, I will let everybody know, and maybe have another day of the week in the evening where I can do the class, and whoever can make it, and then the recording will be available for everybody. So we'll figure out ways to be flexible. I'm asking that you just understand that we might need some flexibility, but inshallah, the goal is to get to these surahs, to complete them, inshallah. And another thing that happens is that the surahs are honestly deep. Like the other day, we were just doing Ayatul Kursi and we ran over half an hour. And this is what used to happen a lot in class. Like we used to run at a time, like it would take 2-3 weeks to finish one surah. But what I did this time around, knowing that I have done this before, I went through and I looked at how many slides I have, how much notes I had, and I estimated the time. And this is how I came up with the schedule. Inshallah, we will stick to it as much as possible. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in it. And I'm going to stop sharing and come back to you, see if you have any questions. Anybody have any questions? There's a Q&A box. Where is it at? Are the payments due the same day every month? August 5th? No, actually, so the payments, I'm using the system called Stripe. So once you signed up, it will automatically bill you, and it will bill you again the same time the next month. So it depends on when it is that you signed up. So you don't have to worry about, you actually don't have to worry about it, because the system will automatically do it. What I will ask, actually, Jazakallah khair for bringing that up, Salman, is that if your card changes, if the card you used changes, it won't let me get the payment. The system will remind you, it will send you an email. Please be mindful to update it. I would really appreciate that. I will reach out and ask you. So keep track of that. If somebody decides the course is not for them and they're not going to continue, you have 14 days from today that I will honor a refund. We will cancel it. Not a refund, because that means you have access to this whole month, but then we can just stop and you won't have to continue if you feel like the course is not for you and you're not going to be able to continue. But then after that 14 days, inshallah, this is going to be a journey that we will go to the end. And, every surah is different. I know some people came to, a person will come to a class and decide, this wasn't for me, but then you never know where in the Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did plan for you, So inshallah, it will be beneficial. How many hours is the class scheduled on Sundays? So it's at the top of the syllabus that I shared with you. 9 o'clock is when we start. We end, inshallah, by 11 a.m. So 2 hours is the scheduled amount of time. Any other questions? How many hours? Okay, yeah, that's the same question. I'll give it 10 more seconds for somebody to send a question. Okay, no more questions. So let's go ahead and start with Surat AlFatiha. What did I just open? Nope. Nope. Reasons? Nope. So this is the first link that I shared with everyone. I'm gonna, so I have the screen right here. Okay. Will there be exams? Yes, there will be the test. The test that you will have, I will send it to everybody, inshallah, like in the middle of the week. So that, well, I don't know if I should send it right away. Maybe I'll send it right away. I'll just have it prepared, and then I'll send it. And then I'll also send you an answer key because I'm not going to be able to grade the test, right? I'll send you an answer key that you can grade yourself with, but hold yourself accountable with taking the test and grading yourself, inshallah. How often? So in the past, I've done it weekly. With every surah, there was a test. That makes it easier. It makes it easier because then you're not doing multiple, like you're not studying, you're not cramming, you're studying. So what I would recommend, there is a 2 hours of class time, and then I would recommend having another hour where you just review your notes, write your reflections every week, and study, and then take the test. And you really won't need more than an hour. You might even need less. So with every surah, and how many surahs are we doing? Fatiha to Surat al-Naba, it will be 40 surahs. 40. So the surahs in Juz' Amma are 39, and then Surat al-Fatiha will make some 40, inshallah. So 40 small quizzes. They're quizzes. It's not a big test. It's going to be quizzes. Is it multiple choice? No, there will not be multiple choice. This is going to be, there's nothing wrong with multiple choice, but it's going to be directly, like I will never put anything on the quiz that isn't on your PowerPoint slides. So it's going to be short answer. So studying will, like you being able to answer the questions will depend on whether or not you actually like read the notes and studied and took your own notes, right? Sometimes I have a question on the PowerPoint, and that question I will answer it, but that means that you have to have taken notes to know the answer. So yeah. وإياكي منيرة وإياكي حبيبتي. Okay, so I sent the Google Slides again for Surah Al-Fatiha. Let's go ahead and start with Surat Al-Fatiha. Inshallah, we'll be able to finish it in time. So the schedule that we looked at said that today we were supposed to do Fatiha and Ikhlas, but because we had to talk about just the syllabus and go over the class expectations and how the class will be running, that took time. So inshallah, we'll do Ikhlas next time. Okay, let's open this. And I so appreciate you guys being patient with me with the technology, you know. Like, alhamdulillah, everything is easy so far. I'm so grateful. Alhamdulillah. Very minor issues, and inshallah, they will work themselves out. All right, so we're going to do Surah Al-Fatiha. What I typically did in class is we would read the surah. So how about I turn it on? And you guys could tell me if you can hear it.
I used to be a Republican, but in 2018, I am going to be voting Democrat. My name is Dan Lilia.
Thank you for voting Democrat because we need that. Yes, awesome. All right, so we'll go ahead and listen to the surah, very short. Follow along with the notes, inshallah, that are on your screen.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
That is my absolute favorite reciter. Absolute favorite reciter. But all my Quran teachers and my Tajweed teachers tell me not to listen to him, and it breaks my heart because I'm like, this is who I love listening to. You know, you feel the Quran with somebody, you never want to stop. Okay, let me put this one away. All right, so Bismillah, walhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. So a question that I always like to ask everybody when we start the surah is, what are the memories that you have connected to Surat Al-Fatiha? Or what are the memories you have connected to the surah? What comes up for you? So write that question down. We're not maybe in a place where we can all listen to one another and hear one another, but then just write it down and think about it. When did you learn it? How did you learn it? What were you taught about it? For me, I think the most powerful thing about the surah is that when I first learned the meaning of it, I was blown away by the idea that it is a conversation between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And simply understanding, I never knew that, I was never taught that, and I only learned it as an adult. And when like, it was like, subhanallah, like, how come nobody ever mentioned this to us, you know? So one of the benefits of studying the tafsir is that you connect with the Quran. And when we're younger, this is what we would appreciate if if our teachers and our mentors and guides and parents are intentional in making sure that they create that for us, right? And so how was it done for you? And then how can you do it for others now? Whether it is your friends, family, children, you know, how can you create a connection with the surah? What do you want them to remember from the surah? Right? So when I learned that it was a conversation between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it completely changed the way I prayed. Also, having understood the surah, I realized that it helps you with your khushu', but when I am in a state or a time of my life where like things are just difficult, Surat Al-Fatiha is enough to move me to tears. It's enough to get me to realize, you know, like, Ya Allah, I have no one else but you that I can depend on, that I can rely on, that can relieve me from this difficulty. One specific time I remember we had a family crisis. And I remember, like, I was making dua for this family member that we were having a problem with, and it really meant a lot to me. And I was so desperate, and I couldn't, like, it took me, I just kept on crying and crying and crying, just saying, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een, just realizing, like, Ya Allah, no one can alleviate this pain that we're in except you, you know? So this surah specifically too, we read it so much that sometimes we can take it for granted. But it's such a powerful surah, and that's why we read it all the time, right? So I will start with the surah facts. So what is the surah facts? Facts about the surah that we know, some of the virtues that are mentioned about the surah. This surah is a Makki one. What does that mean? According to the majority of the scholars, that means that some scholars will tell you, no, the surah is a Madani surah. Okay, some scholars will tell you this surah is Madani. What is the difference between Makki and Madani? I will explain it here. It's really important. Highlight it. Make sure that, you know, this definitely going to be the quiz kind of a question. What does it mean when we say a surah is Makki? It means that it was revealed in the Meccan era of the Prophet ﷺ's life, regardless of geographical location. And when we say that a surah is Madani, it means that the surah was revealed in the Madani era of the Prophet ﷺ's life, regardless of geographical location. The reason why we say regardless of geographical location is that we know that the Prophet ﷺ, when he became a prophet, when he became a messenger, he was in Mecca. He resided in Mecca. And then 13 years later, he was commanded to go to Medina. So the first 13 years are Meccan. But there were times where he was not in Mecca and a surah was revealed, but it was revealed in the Meccan era. And then there were times when he was in, like after he immigrated to Medina, we call that era the Madani era. There were surahs that were revealed, perhaps even in Mecca, but they were revealed in the Madani era. So this surah is considered a Madani. So that's why we say regardless of geographical location. Why is it important to know whether a surah is Meccan or Madani? Because again, it goes back to the context of the history, what was happening, right? So the Meccan surahs and the majority of the Quran was revealed in Mecca. The majority of the Quran is actually Makki. So the surahs that were revealed in Mecca, they emphasized Aqidah. They emphasized Jannah and Hellfire. They emphasized the meaning with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They emphasized who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is and stories of the people of the past. Because it was a time of trying to affirm people's hearts on the faith. The Madani surahs, the majority of them cover, and this is like, they're known, right? It's not like there's no Aqidah mentioned ever again. No, the majority of it is that it covers ahkam, rulings, right? Do this, don't do that. Like, what do you do when this happens? Because this was a time when the Islamic government was established, right? The Islamic government in Medina was established at this point. So we need rulings to teach us how to live the deen, right? Bismillah. Okay, well, you can play here if you want. You can bring some toys and play here.
Take the TV?
You could do that too. Abu Reso.
I take the TV.
No, you can't take the TV. Abu Reso laki.
I tell him
Huh. Tell him you want to watch something upstairs.
downstairs.
No, that we can't do that.
Why?
It's not possible, Hoyo.
Why?
ورد هدي هوي هيدا حناجنن.
Why no?
Okay, so this surah is a surah that has multiple titles, and the Arabs say, in the culture of Arabs, if something has many names, then that means it just shows how important it is. Okay, so some of the titles of Surah Al-Fatiha is the mother of the book, Ummul Kitab. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like, what did we have an agreement on? Yeah. What was our agreement, Imran? Imran, what was our agreement? You guys, I'm really sorry. One minute, please.
Mommy. 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 Mommy.
Imran, Quran هويا. أرد Quran. Imran, أرد Quran. أرد Quran. أرد Quran. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm just going to take a second if you don't mind. Salah. Quran. Imran. Jama. Where's Abu? Where's Abu? What? Where's Abu? Jama. I'm coming. Go back upstairs. Go back. I'm so sorry. قدر الله. Jazakallah khair, Salman. We made an agreement, but then I guess this happened, so inshallah khair. But we'll continue. His dad is upstairs and he knows not to come here. So I'll just ignore him. All right. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, he calls this surah as-sab'a al-mathani wal-Quran al-azim. And it's a verse in the Quran that it's the seven often repeated basically means it's the verses in that we are reading all the time. How many times do we read it? Surat al-Fatiha, like a minimum of 17 times if a person is only praying the wajib. So this is a surah like that is like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it is often repeated, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls it wal Quran al-Azim. We have given you, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to the Prophet ﷺ, we have given you this, like the seven often repeated verses or this surah and al-Quran al-Azim, also meaning that it is Surat al-Fatiha. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that when Surat al-Fatiha was revealed, he was sitting with Jibreel alayhi salam, and then he heard a noise that was coming from the sky, and so he lifted his head up, and Jibreel said to him that this is a door from heaven that never opened before this day. And an angel came down, and this angel came down to the earth. He has never come down to earth before. He said salam to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said to him, I'm giving you the happy news of two lights that you have been given. No prophet has been given them before you. Fatihatul Kitab, which is Surah Al-Fatiha, wa Khawatim Surah Al-Baqarah, and the two last verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. You will not read any verse of them, any letter of them, except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give it to you. So if you think about the last surah ayahs in Surah Al-Baqarah, they are all like dua. You're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something. And I was actually thinking maybe I'll do a bonus video and just go over the tafsir of that ayah as well, of those ayahs as well. Surah Al-Fatiha is also a dua. We're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something. So that's why this hadith is an authentic hadith. It says that you will not read any of it except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer it. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, I swear by Allah that the Torah and the Injil and the Zabur never had anything like this surah. And that's how he said this is the seven often repeated, and this is the great Quran. That it is also the best surah in the Quran. That a person one time so I think I mentioned that hadith. So there was a time where the Prophet ﷺ was in the masjid. There was a companion called Abi Sa'id. He said to him, Ibn Ma'la, he was praying. The Prophet ﷺ called him, told him to come here. And he said he didn't respond to the Prophet. So the Prophet ﷺ told him, no, come, why have you not responded? He eventually went to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ held his hand and he said to him, before you leave this place, before you leave this masjid, I'm going to teach you the greatest surah in the Quran. So before the man left, the Prophet ﷺ left the masjid, the man said to him, Ya Rasulullah, where is the surah that you said you're going to teach me? So the Prophet ﷺ taught him Surah Al-Fatiha. Right? Another thing is that we know that our salah is not valid unless we read Surah Al-Fatiha. If you say Allahu Akbar, and let's say you forgot and you read Surat Qul Huwallahu Ahad or Qul A'udhu Birabbin Nas or any other surah, and then you went into ruku', you went into sujood, and then you realized you forgot to read Surah Al-Fatiha, this is a part of the salah that must be done, and you have to actually repeat the entire rak'ah, because the salah is not valid. The salah is not valid without Surah Al-Fatiha. The rak'ah is not valid without Surah Al-Fatiha. That's how serious it is. It is a conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will talk about it in the next slides, but it's a cure also for the heart and the body. How do we know that? There was a group of companions that were traveling one time. They came to a town and they needed help. They needed support. They asked for the help. They asked the people for help, for support. And then those people did not want to help them. And then while they refused, and they're in this situation of they're trying to figure out how to get help. And the town's leader got sick. And then the people came to this group of companions and they said, is any one of you a healer? Does any one of you know how to heal, how to heal a sick person? Our leader is sick and no one has been able to heal him. So they said to them, yes, we can heal you, but what will you do for us, right? And so obviously they were trying to say we need payment, because they were stranded. They needed something. They needed to eat, right? So the people said, if you heal him, we will give you a shah. What do you call a shah? I think it's not a cow. It's not a cow. It's a goat, right? Or a kharoof. What do you call a kharoof? Sheep, right? So they said, we will give you a kharoof, a sheep. Anyways, so then the man, one of the companions went, he started to blow in his hand and he read Surat Al-Fatiha. How many times did he read it? Let me just look at the hadith. So he started reading Surah Al-Fatiha. It doesn't mention how many times he read it, but he would read Surah Al-Fatiha and he would do dry air spitting. And then he healed the guy and the guy felt better. So because of this, they got the sheep, but then they were confused. They were like, should we eat it? Should we not eat it? We don't know. Let's ask the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they told him what they did. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked the man, how did you know that it will cure him? So then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, how did you know that it was ruqyah? How did you know it is something that you go back to for ruqyah? So the Prophet ﷺ, he laughed and he said, give me part of this, this sheep, because I guess I deserve it as well. It was such a good win for you guys. So one of the things that Ibn al-Qayyim says is that he used to get this pain that used to bother him so much to the point where he wouldn't be able to move. And he said that whenever he would read Surah Al-Fatiha, he would basically put it on the part of his body that is hurting. And he said, I used to feel it's like the pain is falling off from my body. That's how serious it is. And he would take Zamzam water and he would read on it numerous times, and then he would just drink and he would get benefit and strength from it like he has never gotten it from any other medication. So showing you if I'm sick, if I'm ill, and this is something I ask myself as well, sometimes we know things but do we really act upon it? Do we rush to the Quran as a cure? Do we rush to the Quran as I know this is going to heal me before I go for something else? Before I had my son, whenever I got my period, it used to hurt a lot. And I knew the day I get my period, I have to take some Aleve. Otherwise, the pain is not bearable. So I remember my teacher once said to me, the next time you really need to try, just read the 3 quls on yourself and see what happens. So when I moved here, I was at IKEA one day going around, I got my period. And I remember feeling oh my God, I'm going to be in pain, but I'm not home. I don't have medication. What do I do? It's just read, let's see the power of the Quran today. And wallahi, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us, He will let something happen just to show you that His power. And I sat there, I read the Quran on myself, I continued with my shopping, and I did not take pills for my period at all that one time. Never. I did not once did I take it. So our body is like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran is ruqya. فيه شفاء لما في الصدور, and also for the physical ailments of a person as well. Do we run to it? Do we always go to it? Do we always rely on it, right? So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us people who do that, who just automatically go to the Quran whenever we need it. So that's that slide. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts the, where is it? It's a conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me cover that part. So this is the hadith. I have it in Arabic in one slide and in English in the other slide, and I highlighted the parts where what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to us in red. It always gets me confused. So this is a hadith that is authentic. It's in Muslim. The Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu says that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. So this is a hadith Qudsi, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's speaking. He says that I have divided the salah in two halves, between me and my slave. So a part of the salah is for us, a part of the salah is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the scholars say salah here means the dua that we are saying in Surat AlFatiha. Okay? He says, and whatever my slave asks for, then he will get it. What is it? So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when the servant says, when the person will say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will respond by saying, my servant has praised me. Hamadani Abdi. Praise, we will come to the meaning of it, is basically means like to show gratitude and praising at the same time. Okay, basic meaning of it. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and when he says Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, my servant has extolled me, meaning he has like exaggerated, he has gone above and beyond. Like in Arabic, he basically says, Athna alayya abdi, he has like even praised me to another level, to a higher level than the previous level. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And then and then the next thing is when he says Maliki Yawmiddin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, my servant has submitted power to me. In Arabic, it basically is Majadani Abdi or Fawwada ilayya Abdi, my servant has given all of the power to me. He has shown me my true, like where I stand, like that I am the one who is capable of taking care of all of his needs. Then the next one, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is between me and my servant, and my servant shall have whatever he asked for. This is between me and my servant shall have whatever he asked for. And I love this part because we're going to come to it. This is like the most powerful ayah in this whole surah. This is like what we are expressing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what we are professing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so when we say that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, you know what, if you know that, if you have professed that, then I will take care of you. I got you. You know, you have nothing to worry about. Imagine when Allah says that to us. And then he says, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Then this is the dua we're making. This is what we're essentially asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The beginning is just an introduction. This is how I come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And from the manners of making dua is that you start with praising Allah, with glorifying Allah, using the names and attributes of Allah, showing Allah your need, expressing who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and then you start making your dua. So essentially Allah is teaching us how to make dua in this surah. And then when we actually make the dua, and this is the part of the dua, guide us, you know, to the straight path, and you know, keep us on it, all the stuff that we're going to cover. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says, this is for my abd, and my servant will have whatever he asked for. As a principle in Islam, anyone who sincerely asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never let them be misguided. Anyone who asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely for guidance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let them be misguided. The goal is to ask and to do it sincerely, right? So in this, sorry, I skipped the basmala. I think that's the problem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful. Now, saying Bismillah, we know as Muslims, Bismillah, we start with it, everything, right? Everything we start with Bismillah. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that whatever that does not start with the name of Allah, then it is broken. It is bitter, like it doesn't have barakah in it. So when we're eating, when we're using the bathroom, when we're making wudu, when we are, having relations with our spouse, when anything important, when we get out of the house, when we come out, when we come inside the house, we are always saying Bismillah. When we are taking off our clothes, this is an important time to say Bismillah, because the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ says that there will be a barrier put between us and the jinn if we say Bismillah before we take off our clothes. So let me see, let me just make sure I look at my notes. So there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says in Sahih Muslim, if one of you gets into his house and he remembers Allah, meaning he says Bismillah, and then when he's eating, he says Bismillah, the shaitan will say, there is no home for you today, there is no dinner for you today. So if he, فَلَمْ يَذْكُرَ اللَّهَ عِنْدَ دُخُولِهِ قَالَ الشَّيْطَانِ, if he forgets, or if he does not say Bismillah, when he comes in, shaitan will say, you have a home today. And when he forgets to say Bismillah before he starts to eat, shaitan will say, you got a place to stay today and you got food to eat today. So showing you the importance of saying Bismillah. Now, you know how when it comes to different madhahib, some madhab will tell you that it is a must, like you have to say Bismillah before you make your wudu, that you cannot even forget it, like it's part of the wudu and you must do it. Obviously, the opinion that I follow says that it's highly recommended. If you forget it, it's okay, but we start with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all these actions and specific ibadas. So I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna come back here for Q&A. Does anybody we're going to get into the deeper meaning of Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim in the next verses. Does anybody have any questions up until this point? Alhamdulillah. Are we good? Do I have a recommended way of taking notes? I'll tell you the way I take it. Everybody has a different way of doing it. If you are going to print the slides, I would recommend getting a 3-ring binder and then putting them in there, and then having a notebook, and you title it at the top like Surat AlFatiha, and then you take your notes that way. Or in the 3-ring binder, you also get those papers, like blank papers, and put them in your notes, like along your notes, and take your notes that way. So you have those two options. That's how, with the Maghrib classes, that's how I would just take my notes. Another thing that I also do, what I did a lot is, whenever I'm doing an online class, is that I just have a Word document and I take my notes that way. That's actually a lot of my Al-Huda notes were like that. I didn't print anything, and I just took everything on a Word document. So when I was studying, I just went back to that Word document. So what works for you? What has worked for you in the past? The journal, I recommend you write in a special like journal, like you really spend the time to reflect, like, how does this apply to me? What am I thinking? What were the thoughts and the feelings and emotions and like, the questions that were coming up in my mind, and what do I want to do with it? Okay, let's continue. I hope that suffices, Munira. Perfect. Okay, let me try something new. Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, we covered this, we covered that, alhamdulillah. All right, so then the next ayah is, actually I forgot to mention something, and this is really important. Is it an ayah that is part of Surat Al-Fatiha? So if you look at your Quran, if you look at the Quran that you have at home, you will see that Surah Ayatul Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and then it's numbered number 1, meaning that it is part of Surah Al-Fatiha. And some people might have a mushaf where Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is not part of Surah Al-Fatiha. So this is a question that we are asked, like, or that the scholars actually debate. Is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim part of Surah Al-Fatiha? So if somebody tells you, read Surah Al-Fatiha, you have to start with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Or if you are in your salah, you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim out loud, versus that, no, it's like you say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Or do you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen? How? Like, how do you say it? So there is 2 camps, and there's 2 different opinions. Obviously, one is stronger than the other, but who determines that? The scholars, not me. I'm only sharing the 2 opinions that exist out there. Is that some scholars say that Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is part of Surah Al-Fatiha. And that's why we read it out loud when we are in the salah. We say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim out loud in the salah. In the Hanbali madhab, they say no, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is an ayah, or like a verse, an ayah that is independent of Surah Al-Fatiha. We say it at the beginning of every surah, except for Surah Al-Bara'ah, like Surah Al-Tawbah. And the evidence that they use is this hadith right here that we talked about. They say that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I divided the salah between me and my slave, if you look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts with, where is it? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Okay, so Allah starts with that. Allah does not start with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. That's their evidence for it. When the other group, they say no, it's part of it, and that's how our Quran is printed. So if you read on the riwayah of Hafs ibn Asim, which is the majority of us, I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the majority of people I think reads Hafs ibn Asim. That's the first qira'ah that, well, I shouldn't say that, I don't know, but that's the one that we read. And that's the one that the mushaf is printed with. Then it's Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is considered verse number 1. Okay, so that answered that questions, and that's another likely quiz question. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen is the first. So it's the ayah. Alhamd means all praise and gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The word hamd encompasses 2 things, and this is why, like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a hadith, he says that Alhamdulillah is the best of dua, and in the Quran is filled with the word Alhamdulillah. And my favorite part is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the people of Jannah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes like what they say, like the last thing that they say, وَقِيلَ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. This is the last thing that the people of Jannah will say. And I'm like, oh my God, Ya Allah, get us there. Ya Allah, get us there. Ya Allah, make us of those people that are in Jannah. But the Quran also starts with it. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And we say it we say it all the time. So what does Alhamd mean? What does it encompass? It encompasses praise and thanks, describing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with perfection that is accompanied with love and veneration, and like shukr, gratitude. Like I am so amazed by you. I am so amazed by your perfection. And because you're that perfect, no one else is that perfect, I am grateful for the fact that this has come from you towards me, right? That's what alhamd literally like means and it entails. So there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ heard somebody say, Ya Rabbi, oh my Rabb, لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. To you belongs all praise and gratitude, the way it is befitting for your majesty and your great like might. So then the angels didn't know how to write it. They were like, where do we put this? Like, what scale of reward do we give this? So they took it to Allah and they asked Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, write it the way my slave said it. When he meets me, I will reward him for it. So this hadith made me think about, how do we praise Allah and show him like gratitude? How do we say, when we say Alhamdulillah, how are we feeling? Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says like, when my servant says it in a way that is great like that, when he meets with me, I will give him the reward for it. And the interesting thing is that like, when we are praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we know the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to praise Allah and thank him, say Alhamdulillah, ala kulli hal, when it's good things happening and when bad things are happening. And we're going to say more about that. But like, what are the emotions, what are the thoughts that we have and connected to it when we say Alhamdulillah? Rabb means all of these things that you see on here. Rabb is a word in Arabic, and you know, when we talk about Aqeedah, there's Tawheed, like Uluhiyya, Rububiyyah, Asma wa Sifat, right? That's the way we've learned Aqeedah. Rububiyyah is that the fact that everything that comes, the actions that come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards us. So Rabb emphasizes, whenever you see Rabb in the Quran, think about, this is actions that are coming from Allah towards me. What are the actions that are coming from Allah towards me? Allah owns me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is my master. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that grows me, develops me, takes me on one stage to the other in my life, like the Murabbi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Mudabbir. He's the one who plans for me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one Al-Mun'im. He is the one who gives me blessings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Qayyim. He is the one who sustains me in all my affairs and all the affairs that humanity and the heavens and the earth need. Though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-muslih, He is the one that makes my affairs upright. He is the one that makes all my like everything that I need good, you know. He makes things right for me. Al-Alameen, Ibn Kathir, he says Al-Alameen is everything that is besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, and the word alama comes from the root word, Alameen comes from the root word alama, which means like a sign, right? Something that stands for something else. So, the angels, that's like a world by itself. The human beings in another world. If you say like, you know, the animals, the kingdom of the animals, the kingdom of the ants, the kingdom of the oceans, the mountains, these are all like existence that is besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why like Alameen is plural, right? There are so many of them. My friend says, you know, what if Alameen means like there are aliens in the world and there is some part of the world there's a different life. Allah Ta'ala A'lam. I don't know about that. Allah didn't tell us about the aliens, you know. But do they exist? Do they not exist? We have no information. We don't speak about it. But I just thought it was funny like that. If you think about Alameen as something that is like aliens specifically. It could be, you know, but it also entails everything else that exists besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Musa alayhi salam said to Fir'aun, like basically submit to Allah, Fir'aun said, وَمَا رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ, what is this Rabbul Alameen? And Musa responds to him like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches Musa to respond, رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا إِن كُنْتُم مُوقِنِينَ. He is the Rabb of the heavens and the earth and everything that is in between, if only you would have certainty. Right? So remember if you have listened to Ayat al-Kursi, the tafsir of Ayat al-Kursi, we talked about when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Musa asked Allah, like, do you ever sleep? And he said, take 2 glasses and 2 bottles of glass and hold them the whole night and make sure they don't fall. And Musa falls asleep. When he falls asleep, the 2 glasses fall and they break. And Allah tells him, if I ever sleep, the heavens and the earth would crash. And so connecting Rabb to samawati wal ard, meaning the actions that are coming from Allah for the heavens and the earth and everything in between, is the same one as like this one right here, Qayyim, the one who is sustaining everything. Okay, I hope that makes sense, and I hope I'm not going too fast. So this is a reflection prompt, and you know how as human beings we have different experiences, right? And we all go through difficulties, whether it is in our health, in our family relationships, in our circumstances, in like oppression that we have been facing, something, like something, a test that we have been given, right? However, when we only see the pain and don't consider what could come positively out of that pain, we become ungrateful. We become people who are just immersed in the pain that they're in and don't see a way out. But the reason why we say, Alhamdulillah, the Prophet ﷺ would say, Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal, Alhamdulillah for every situation, is that when something good is happening, this is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the believer is that the one when good is happening, he's happy and he's grateful. When something not good is happening, he is patient, and this is also good for him. So both situations are good for us. And it's something that we all struggle with. Like, even though if we believe this in a conscious level, in a subconscious level, do we completely believe it? Sometimes we don't have trust. And we don't have trust in the fact that we will be okay regardless of what happens to us. We're going to be okay regardless of what happens to us. So how do we build that muscle? One thing that helped me a long time ago, I remember I really struggled with these emotions of something bad is going to happen, if I pursue this path of my life. And I knew I felt how could you not trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that He has the best, in Surat al-Kahf, the story when Musa goes meets with al-Khidr. So what I did is and how in every aspect of that story, you see how something negative was happening, but at the end of the day, it was better, even though these people did not know, right? So how do we gain that wisdom and insight that what I'm going through is not good, but it's going to be good for me. It's going to be good for me. I'm never going to regret. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to cause me pain. Allah has my best interest at the end of the day. Allah is not here to punish me. So what I did is I sat down and I put down I would write Alhamdulillah, and I would think of every single situation in my life from the time that I was a child where it wasn't a pleasant experience, but then I thought about what came out of it. How did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ultimately protect me based on those experiences? And when I did that, I felt like this mountain had been removed from my heart. You regardless of what happens, Khaltoon, Allah is here to take care of you. Regardless of what pain or sadness or misery or grief that you're going through, it's going to be temporary. You're going to come out of it. All emotions are temporary, right? But when we're in something, we think it's going to last forever. I remember one of my teen students one time, she was older, she was in college and working and, having relationship stuff come up for her. And she just cried one day and she said, like, life is just so hard. And I was thinking, like, how many of us have thought like that? But then we go through a learning process, but then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ultimately protecting us. And so I said that to her, like, how has Allah protected you? And this girl just started crying and crying and crying. And it felt like she recognized that even though there was a difficulty in what she was going through, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like, nothing happened to her that, that she felt like I can't overcome it. Anyways, this is what I'm saying is very long, but basically what I'm asking us to do is to reflect and think about our past experiences and connecting it with alhamdulillah, right? And asking ourselves, how did good come out of that difficulty? Now, Renee Brown has a very popular video that I love, and I absolutely love it. It's called basically like empathy. How do you show empathy? And in this video, she talks about a person who, like, you say to them, and I get that the message of that video, if you watched it, the message of that video is that we connect better with people if we show empathy, right? And yes, we do show empathy. At the same time, in our deen, we highlight what should we be grateful for. In that video, she does it in a way where obviously the person who is trying to show you, who's trying to highlight what to be grateful for, is doing it in a way where it's not like very nurturing, right? So how do we bring people's minds to what is going well for them, despite what pain that they're in a way that is nurturing while still showing empathy? And how do we do it for ourselves? How do we come to terms with the fact that, yes, I'm going through this pain. I understand. I'm going to be compassionate with myself. And at the same time, I'm going to look at everything else that is going well for me. Because if we don't do that, then we are sucked into this dark hole, dark cloud of sadness, of like depressed feelings. Okay? So that's why I wanted to emphasize that. So what I would recommend doing with a slide like this is to just follow that. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. How did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as you write, think about what are you grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for? Specifically, how has positivity come out of your difficult experiences in life? Okay? The next ayah, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my Rabb, the Rabb that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to. So in the first ayah was Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. We're praising and we're showing gratitude to our Rabb. Who is He? What's His qualities? And the two qualities Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts with is to show His rahmah, His kindness, His mercy, His compassion towards us. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman is a form, like grammatically, is a form that shows like it's so much. It's temporary, it's immediate, but then it's so much of it. And Ar-Rahman is one of those words that is only used with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't say so-and-so is Rahman. You use Rahman to show somebody who will, like, if I'm in difficulty and I use Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would alleviate my pain immediately, like right now. Also, Ar-Rahman is the one that shows mercy towards the entire creation. Everybody falls under His mercy. Ar-Rahim shows something permanent, something long, something that will last a long time, but it also shows specifically for those who believe in Him as well. Okay? Now, let me go back to my notes here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, عَذَابِي أُصِيبُ بِهِ مَنْ أَشَاءُ. My punishment, I will hit with it whomever I wish, but my mercy encompasses everything, and I will write it for those who have taqwa, those who pay zakah, and those who believe in our verses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says also, كتب ربكم على نفسه الرحمة, that Allah has prescribed, He wrote upon Himself mercy, that this is the way he deals with people, this is the way he deals with humanity, that his mercy comes before his anger and his punishment. And who deserves the punishment of Allah then? Those who were like the worst of the worst, right? The person who gets punished is the person who has gone, like, crossed all limits, okay? Maliki Yawmiddin is the owner and the king of the dominion. Malik shows Malik and Malik. So when we, different recitations in the Quran, or the way the Quran like is read, Maliki Yawmiddin is correct, Maliki Yawmiddin is correct. And if you've heard different reciters, you've heard both words. So what they, Malik and Malik, even though they're very close, they have two different meanings. Malik means the owner, the one who possesses. And Malik means the one who has the power. Now, the scholars mention that the one who owns everything isn't always the one who is in power. And sometimes a person might be in power, but they are not the owners of everything. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings the two together. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment will say, where are the kings? Show me their kingdoms. Where are those who were basically, show me what you own now, nothing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, basically all dominion and all power is only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, so Allah He is the owner and He is the ruler. Like, He is the one who has the power. On which day? On the day of a deen. What does deen mean? It's a day of payback, the day of recompense, the day that you will meet with your amal, the day where you will meet with everything you have done. You'll be paid back for it. This is why, like in Islam, we live with the concept of what happens today, tomorrow you will meet it. It's not khalas, like it's gone, or that you're going to be reincarnated and you're going to live another life. No, you're going to die, and when you get into your grave, you're going to be held accountable, and then you're going to stand in front of Allah and you're going to be held accountable. And subhanallah, like a decisive moment in my own personal life was the day where when I took my first Maghrib class. I always talk about this, like I wasn't practicing before this class. And Sheikh Yasir Qadi, at the end of the class, he said, take the exam, you're gonna, if you get an A, I'm gonna keep up with those students and blah, blah, blah. And I really liked him. I was like, I want to keep up with this cool guy. But then he mentioned, but just remember, whether you pass the exam or not, the real exam is the day when you stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what are you going to say to him? And I remember feeling like, oh my God, that day is coming. That was the first time in my entire life I had thought about, I'm going to be standing in front of Allah. Like, I visualized it. And as soon as that happened, it was like, it kind of reset me. It reset my intentions. It reset my purpose. It reset, like, what is it that I'm striving for? What is it that I'm working towards, right? So this is something we say where? In Surat AlFatiha. Every single day we're going to meet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, knowing that too, as human beings, we have to be compassionate with ourselves. We're not going to be perfect, right? We're not going to be perfect. As a man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said to him, Ya Rasulullah, like where am I? What did he say? He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, where will I be on the Day of Judgment? What will happen to me on the Day of Judgment? And then the Prophet ﷺ asked him, what have you prepared for? Like, what have you done to earn like a great reward in the Day of Judgment? So this man was humble and he says, Ya Rasulullah, I haven't done much. I don't do a lot of like ibadah. But what I have is that my heart is filled with your love. Like, I love you. And so the Prophet ﷺ said to him, Al-mar'u ma'a man ahab, you will be with those whom you love. Because if we have people that we love and they inspire us, then we will live our life to emulate them. So if we do that with great people, then we will live great lives like that. But if we look up to people that are insignificant, that are not worthy of like praise, not in this life and in the akhirah, and we're going to live life like that. So the fact that this man was his aspiration was to be with the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ is telling him, then you're going to live your life seeking, doing the things that you associate with the people you love, and inshallah you will be with them, whomever they are. So asking ourselves, who are the people we love? Who are the people that we want to be like, and we think of like, you know, their legacy, their productivity, their what is it that they're contributing to the world. I would love to be like that. I look up to that. I would love to be able to do something like that. Think about, who are they? What about them what about them do you look up to? And then guess what? The moment you recognize that, you will realize that you will automatically start to live your life according to that. Isn't that amazing? Like when you realize who are the people, who are your role models, when you think about that and you say, what about them makes them my role models? You will take the path that they are taking. You're not going to do everything they do exactly the same. Obviously, we don't copy others, but we get inspired by others. And this is a really important principle in our deen as well. الْمَرْءُ مَعَ مَنْ أَحَبَّ, or that person is with whomever they love. A person, you know, عَلَى دِينِ خَلِيلِهِ, that a person will be on the path of his friend or his closest companion. So looking at that and then asking ourselves, where am I heading in life? Okay. I'm gonna. So if I'm good, like I know I'm stopping every few minutes to ask, do you have any questions? I'm gonna do that right now. But please, if any question comes up for you, go ahead and post it, inshallah, just so that we don't lose a lot of time in me waiting. Okay. Okay. So then, Maliki Yawmiddin. Let me just make sure I covered everything that I have in that page. Okay. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You alone we worship, and you alone we seek help and we seek support from. Iyaka is a word that shows only you. It's like I am, in Arabic grammar, it's like Dhamir al-Mukhatab is the one, like it's basically me speaking to this person. So I'm speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Iyaka, only you, Ya Allah. Na'budu, we all worship. Wa iyaka nasta'in, and you alone we all seek support from and help from. So the words themselves, na'budu means we worship. What does worship mean? Worship linguistically, and this is really important because worship in Islam is not the same as it is in like what is popularly believed or what is believed by other faiths as well. Worship is usually looked at like the time where you just go and you devote yourself to specific ibadah, whereas in Islam it has a bigger and more like a broader definition, right? Linguistically, ibadah means to be in full obedience, with humility, with submission, with veneration and love, to show subordinates, like that you are above and I am below, to this individual that you are worshiping, or to this being that you are, I don't want to say individual, astaghfirullah, to this being that you are worshiping. Ibadah is also means, like, you know, in Arabic, the word abada means to pave a path, to create a path, to create like a place of like walking, or like a road, okay? A path that is taken. Islamically, Ibn Taymiyyah says, ibadah is everything that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything that Allah is happy with. Of that and it's like three different ways. That beliefs in the hearts, actions by your limbs, like your physical actions, and statements that you utter, whether you do it inwardly or outwardly. So in my heart, I believe something, I love somebody, I am going to be grateful in my heart. In my heart, I'm going to have trust in Allah. In my heart, I'm going to forgive others. In my heart, I'm going to hold myself accountable. I'm going to be conscious. I'm going to think of Allah and be moved to tears. These are all worship of the heart. Okay, in my heart, I'm going to desire the best for somebody. In my heart, I will make dua for somebody, even though I'm not outwardly saying it. And then statements is like things that you actually utter. So la ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, advising, saying a kind word, giving somebody encouragement, words that are positive, things that are pleasing to Allah, but you utter them out loud. And then the action is like you're walking to the masjid, you are taking care of your family, you are taking care of your children, you are taking care of your neighbor, cooking for somebody who is sick, doing things with you. These are all considered ibadah. According to this definition, everything we do in Islam can be considered worship. Everything we do can be considered worship. That's why we say inna mahyaya wa mamati, inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. That my salah, the way I take in life, my living and my death is all for Allah. If I do everything that I do seeking to please Allah, guess what? I have spent my whole life worshiping Allah. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, I only created you to worship me, it basically means, are you doing this? Are you following this? Right? And then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ, and you alone we seek help, is that we are relying completely on Allah. We recognize that all help and support comes from Allah, because we also know that He is the one who is capable of giving us the help that we need. And this ayah summarizes our whole Islam. What's interesting is that Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he has one of the most popular books of tazkiyah, purification of the soul. It's called Madarij al-Salikin, the steps that the seekers of Allah take. The whole 2 volumes is explaining Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. 2 volumes, a book that is 2 volumes, that so much is taken out of, is only explaining Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. And I know the Al-Maghrib class that covered that book and this ayah was by far one of the best Al-Maghrib classes ever. It was a tazkiyah course. It was called the Heart Serene. People were just in tears and enjoy the whole time, because it was all of it was talking about. It was how do I live my life worshiping Allah? How do I live my life seeking the help of Allah? So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us, Ya Rabbil Alameen, in that certainty we have in seeking Him and seeking help from Him and support from Him. There was a where is it? So there's how do we get the help of Allah? Here we're asking Allah for His help. And the Muslim and the believer is the one who tries to also emulate the behaviors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his own self, whatever you're able to do. So if Allah is al-Mu'een, Allah is the one that helps and supports, then how can you do that? So how can we, what is one of the ways that we can get the help of Allah? There is a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's a long hadith. I'll share it all because everything in it is beautiful and we need it, especially a specific part that I want to emphasize. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in this hadith, "Man naffasa an mu'minin kurbatan min kurab ad-dunya." Whoever relieves a believer from a difficulty of the difficulties of this dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will relieve him from one of the difficulties of the Day of Judgment. And whoever makes something easy for someone who is in a difficulty, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make his affairs in the dunya and the akhirah easy. And whoever covers up for a Muslim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cover up for him in the dunya and in the akhirah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in always helping the slave as long as the slave is in the help of his brother. And whoever seeks a path to seek knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes easy for him a path to Jannah. And no group of people ever come together in the house, in one of the house of Allah, that they are reciting the book of Allah, they are studying the book of Allah between them, except that the sakina, the tranquility, comes down upon them, وَغَشِيَتْهُمُ الرَّحْمَةِ, and that mercy encompasses them, and Allah mentions them with those whom are with Him, the angels up there who also make dua for us. وَمَنْ أَبْطَأَ بِهِ عَمَلُهُ لَمْ يُسْرِعْ بِهِ نَسَبُهُ, and whoever his actions don't take him forward, his nasab, his lineage, his family, his background is not going to take him forward. So be like, this whole hadith is showing what? Be mindful of what you're doing and how you're helping others, and who you are, and like, who are you being with others? If you are this person who's giving and helping and supporting and making things easy for people, Allah treats you the exact same way. So how we want Allah to treat us, let's treat other people like that. And the other part of it is like, if we're here to seek knowledge, we're here, like, hopefully this dua will encompass us, and then whenever we come together to study the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also covering us with His tranquility, His rahmah, and remembering us and making dua for us with the angels, inshallah. And then the next ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim, guide us to the straight path. This is the part where this is what we're asking Allah. This is what we're requesting from Allah. We're saying, oh Allah, guide us on the straight path. Guide us means to show someone the way until they reach their destination. To show someone the way until they reach their destination. There's two types of guidance in our deen. One is that irshad is basically means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the information that we need to reach our destination, right? So Allah sends us prophets, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us stories, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, like we're looking for help, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends us a teacher to teach us what we need. So giving us the information. The second type of guidance is tawfiq, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy or gives us the success to attain what we want. So what do you personally need to have success? You need strength, we need motivation, we need consistency, we need to be disciplined, all these things that come with attaining your goal. And think about your goals as like, yes, your ibadah and your life, but also think of it like things that you need for your dunya too. Completing your degree, completing, like your tasks at work, doing, like running a marathon if you decided that that's what you want to do. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the tawfiq if He wants it for you, and you can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. I have a friend, whenever I tell her, my personal goals and what I want to do, she tells me like, ask Allah for tawfiq. Ask Allah for tawfiq. You can want something. You might know how to do something, but the tawfiq ultimately comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are people who, Islam has been presented to them and they believe it, yet they don't take it. Why? Because they don't have the tawfiq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not given them that part of the guidance, right? So you seek it. Your sincerity, how sincere you are, determines too how much of the tawfiq you get, right? If you're wishy-washy, you're not really putting the right efforts, like you're not going to be able to reach that goal as much as you want it, and then on the straight path is the path that leads to Jannah. There was a time where the Prophet ﷺ is sitting with his companions, and he said to them, he took a stick and he drew on the ground like a straight path, and then from it he drew different paths that lead different ways. And he said, this is the straight path, this is what will take you to Jannah. This is the Quran and the Sunnah. You follow that, you will be on that straight path. If you divert from it, then shaitan has taken you to different places. It's not the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how do we continuously ask Allah to put us on that straight path, right? What is that path? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes it. Let me just make sure I come back to you guys and see if there is any. Nope, there are no questions. Perfecto. Okay, I will continue as long as there are no questions, inshallah. Okay, how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describe this path? Allah says, Surat al-ladina, the path of those whom you have blessed, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ, not the ones who have earned your anger, and not the ones who have gone astray, right? What is that? This is definitely going to be a quiz question, but this is also a question or something that I really want us to internalize and take away from this surah, inshallah, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, not the path of those who have earned your anger. What are the qualities that bring about the anger of Allah? What is the specific things that bring the anger of Allah? It's when you have knowledge, you know the truth, and you decide to take the other path. You know the truth, you know this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, and then you purposefully go the other route. Now, and those who have gone astray, what are the qualities that bring about misguidance, going lost, like not taking the right path? It's when you worship Allah or you do things without having proper information, correct information. You worship Allah on no foundation of knowledge, right? What you're doing, where is it coming from? Now, when I was younger, typically we were taught that Allah is speaking about the Jews and the Christians. And I wonder, like, put a hand up or say me on the chat so that I see how many of us have learned it that way. That we have been taught like it's them, it's the Yahud and say it's the Jews and the Christians, you know. But then here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually speaking about things that you and I are capable of doing too. Why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasizing other people? Our deen is not about other people, it's about you. It's about what are you doing, right? So asking ourselves, where do I have knowledge yet I do otherwise? Has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught me this is the proper thing to do and this is what I should be doing, this is what I need to be doing, yet I do otherwise? The reason why the Yahud and the Christians are mentioned is because this is a quality that they are known for. The Jews, Allah constantly tells them, you have knowledge, but you are not sincere about it, so you do what you want to do and you do the opposite of what I'm asking you to do. As for the Christians, they are sincere, they are worshiping Allah, they are spending all this time in worship of Allah, but they are doing it in a way where what they're doing is not aligned with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is essentially saying, who told you this? Where did you bring this information from? So both things are emphasizing are we sincere in acting upon the knowledge that we have? And are we seeking knowledge to make sure that what we are doing is aligned with the Quran and the Sunnah? It's aligned with wisdom. And actually today in this time and age, the way we live our lives, is it based on the best, like the most things that we're living our lives based on tested strategies and information. And we live in the time of science, right? So when I'm thinking about, say for example, the food I'm eating, am I thinking about how does this food really impact me? What does it do for me? What has science taught me about the food? Because there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of research out there. So if I'm trying to fix my health, I ought to go and learn about how does this food impact my body? You know what I mean? So whatever it is, like in terms of, like, let's say you're parenting, go back to the Quran and the Sunnah about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about how to treat children and the responsibility children have. But also, like, this is a time where human beings have reached like great, what do you call, they've spent so much time in learning about child development. Am I spending the time to read those books and learn so that I'm giving my children the best, so that I'm not getting lost, I'm not astray? You see what I mean? So it applies to all of us at all times. So Ibn al-Qayyim says that those two diseases, when the knowledge is corrupt and that the purpose is corrupt, then everything the person is upon is corrupt. And how do you fix them? having sincerity in the knowledge that you have, that I'm going to really act upon it, and having sincerity in seeking what is most accurate, what is most truthful. If you don't do that, then you are going to be of those two groups. We are going to be of those two groups. And wallah, it's something to be very conscious of and very scared of, because, you know, there is a الذين ضل سعيهم في الحياة الدنيا وهم يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those who, like, all their efforts in this dunya has been lost, and they thought the whole time that they are doing the best, but they come on the day of judgment and they have not done anything good. Why? Because they just never really checked with themselves. Is this the best? Am I doing this the best way possible? You know, and wallahi, like, it breaks my heart. Like, you see people that maybe get into a marriage and they don't know anything about how to have an intimate relationship with the opposite gender or their spouse, but then they expect themselves to, they never learn it. They don't go back to, like, the sunnah of the Prophet in treating his wives and dealing with his dealing with his wives, or they don't go back to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about marriage, and they don't read books about it, and they refuse to go to counseling, and then they expect, why isn't my marriage working out? And they're in pain, and you're like, why haven't you spent the time to learn? Why haven't you spent the time to figure it out? Why haven't you been sincere about, like, or let's say somebody has been given all that information, you know, and some of us can be in that boat where sometimes, like, wallahi, sometimes I feel like that too. Like, I know all of this, but what is going on? Like, why am I not able to act upon it? And guess what it comes down to? Fix your intention. When you fix your intention, like, knowledge becomes, like, the knowledge that you have becomes beneficial. The knowledge we have, like, you know, in the beginning of every session, you know, like, I always make that dua, whatever we're learning, Ya Allah, make it beneficial for us. What makes knowledge beneficial is our degree of sincerity. We will end in a few more minutes, okay? Because we started a few minutes late because of tech issues. Forgive me. I always run over. Please forgive me. I will learn to get better at this, inshallah. All right? So this is not only for the Jews and the Christians, this is for us. And I feel like if we're always making dua to Allah to protect us from this, if anything you remember from this surah is that when we say اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين, asking Allah, asking yourself and saying, how can I fix my sincerity in seeking knowledge, and what do I need to learn more? How can I become more sincere? Am I sincere in this effort? If I'm struggling, how sincere am I really? If I'm not struggling, still, like, renewing our intentions all the time, but also saying, like, what do I need to learn to do the best in this area of my life? الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ are the prophets, the prophets of Allah, the Siddiqeen, those who are, like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises, people who have been granted Jannah, the companions, righteous people, people who are known for goodness. الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ, Allah tells us their stories. Why? So that we can see, how did they live their life? How did they live their life? And we take those lessons and we apply it to ourselves. Done. So, the next slide, always ask yourself, is what I'm doing aligned with the knowledge that I have? As much as you are able to, and knowing that. So the reason why I say that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, like, a person says, Ya Allah, like, I'm trying to worship you as much as I can. I'm trying to do what you asked me to do, mastata'at, as much as I can. وَمَا تَوْفِيقِ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ, and my success is only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So knowing that we are also human beings and we have certain abilities. I might know this is the truth, but it's not my ability yet. But guess what? I know that's my goal and I'm working towards it. So I'm striving towards that, right? So having that compassion with ourselves, and also knowing that I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get higher. Am I sincere in wanting to please Allah and do what is right? Or am I only living for myself? Am I doing this for me, or am I doing it for Allah? If I'm doing it for Allah, then what does Allah want? I was thinking about this because one time, like, I spent a couple of weeks with my teen students talking about the requirements of hijab, and what hijab is, and like how does it work. And so then a few weeks after that, there was an incident like in social media where this woman was supposedly like saying, I'm going to do hijab modeling, and she did it for Playboy magazine. And it was just like, this is not, to me, like, this is not hijab. And so, but then one of my students said to me, like, I understand this is not hijab, but for us, the way we understand it now, it's like, this is hijab. This is the American style of hijab. And I was thinking, like, that was incorrect. Like, it's completely incorrect. Because hijab is like something that comes from Allah. It doesn't come from me. It doesn't come from you. And it doesn't come from the society. And it doesn't come from the culture. It comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So who determines it? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to me, like, sometimes, yes, I might want to do this because I want it. Because I'm not ready to do what Allah asked me to do yet. And it's okay to say that. I'm just not ready to do it yet. I'm going to do it. I know this is what Allah wants, but I'm not ready. But then to say that this is okay because this is the way we do it, that's when it becomes like misguidance. That's when it becomes something that earns us the anger of Allah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. What am I doing is what I'm doing aligned with the guidance I have in the Quran and the Sunnah? And then I would add to that, like today, modern science and what like research and books and people who study, the people who specialize in that field, the best practices that they have learned. Is it aligned with that? Am I putting effort to seek that knowledge? And am I using my intellect and ability to reflect to seek the truth? The last slide that I have for us is a dua. And this dua was taught to me by my brother. He was in prison. And he was unjustly held he was unjustly imprisoned. Alhamdulillah, he's free now. But I remember, like, this is when I had started practicing, and there was a lot of things that were just confusing me, and I was in an ocean of confusion about who do you follow and who do you trust and what path do you do, what do you like things like that. And he taught me this dua because I was like pouring my heart out to him, like, this has happened, and this is what they said, and this is how this happened, and this is how it happened. And he just looked at me and looked at me and looked at me, and at the end, and he said, Kaltun, I'm just going to teach you a dua. And wallahi, like, I never appreciated having been taught a dua because it came at the perfect time. Like, I needed it, and it was exactly what I was struggling with. And dua basically says, Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah. Oh Allah, show me the truth as truth. Warzuqna ittiba'ah, guide me, like, bless me with the ability to follow it. And show me the falsehood as false, and guide me and, like, bless me with the ability to avoid it. We live at a time where, like, there's so much confusion out there. There's so many different philosophies and way of life, and this is how I see it, no, this is my opinion. And we are at a time where people speak about things they don't know, and they come up with their own opinion, the way I see it. Because you know what? I am so important, and I'm so knowledgeable that I could come up with my own opinion. So how do you know the truth? Especially when it's presented in a way or in a very eloquent way, in a very beautiful way and systematic way. And subhanAllah, like, corruption in our understanding of the deen or aqidah or philosophy or way of life can be corrupted by these ideas. So we make this dua for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us on the path that is best for us, and that when we see it, we don't become confused. It's clear to us. And following it does not become difficult for me. It's easy for me. We're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. And then reflections. This is the last bit of the class. And this is when we would sit down together and I would stop talking and you guys would just share your reflections, what resonated with you from Surat AlFatiha. That part, I hope you guys can share with me in the chat box, just so that we can all reflect on some things that stood out to you and maybe not stood out for me or for somebody else. And then the other ones, really take your time to journal about them in your journal. The first time I taught this surah, there's two reflections of my students that I can never forget. Like, it really imprinted something in my head. One of them is one of my students, Aisha Khan, and she said, she was a teen, she said, if I wasn't a Muslim, this is the moment I would accept Islam, because of what the surah has covered. And the other one was a sister who was previously Christian and became Muslim. She was Nigerian, and she said, now I understand why we pray 5 times a day. You know, she said, now I understand why we pray 5 times a day. And I remember thinking, like, I wish I understood what you understood from it. But it's still like, why do we like think about what we're asking Allah and how important it is that we do it multiple times a day. Let me go back to you all. Stop sharing my screen. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. I have a hard stop right now. Ameen, حبيبتي, Ameen, Rabia. Are you guys still in? What is a hard stop? Okay. Okay, good. Okay, you guys can hear me. All right. What's resonating with you? What are some of the lessons that you're taking away from this surah? Assalamu alaikum, Samar. Allah will always be here, right here with each of us. Absolutely. Absolutely. May Allah make us conscious of that at all times, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Were you guys able to also open the Google Docs, like the Google Docs that I sent, and follow with the notes on your own computer, not just mine? Good. Alhamdulillah. Wonderful. Wonderful. Sagal, assalamu alaikum. When I first understood Tafseer of this surah, what stuck with me, it's not just a dua for the individual reading, but also entire community. Yes, I forgot to actually mention that. Is that every time, like all the du'as that we were making, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking in plural sense. So we are making dua for not just myself, but also, imagine what we just talked about. Imagine if this applied to everybody in our community. Everybody in our Muslim community was able to live this. Like, what will our community be like? What would we be able to do for humanity, for our society? You know, so it's just to realize that we're not alone. And then someone says, I first read the meaning of the Surat AlFatiha when I was pregnant and going through a very difficult pregnancy. I also love the ayah, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. جزاkallah khair for sharing, Samar. Also reminded me that we can ask for anything from Allah. Nothing is too small. True. Jazakumullah khair, ladies. Jazakumullah khair. I'm gonna stop the recording, and I think we are good. So what's next right now is that you will, what are you gonna do? You will do the reflections in the PowerPoint, and you will, I will inshallah work this week on sending the test, on fixing up the student portal so that everything is just on there. And you should get weekly email reminders with the Zoom access. So a lot of you guys received it, but some of you didn't receive it, and I'm not sure why. So inshallah, that's what I will be working on this week. Jazakumullah khair. Sagal, you were in the live class before. Let me know, I hope, I'm really hoping that, thank you, Hoyo. I'm really hoping that this still worked out, online class still worked out, inshallah. This is Imran. Say salam alaikum. Salam alaikum. We're done. I'm just going to stop the recording right now.